Hello, it's April 30th, 2022. Boy, this was a full month. If this was if this month was a cup of coffee, it would be right to the brim. So much stuff. And it seemed to go slowly, more slowly than usual, which I guess is a good thing if we're making the good use of time, right? So this is my Good Life meditation, daily exercise, shortly after I wake up. First thing before I do anything else, other than just, making myself presentable. Hair still wet. Before I begin the day. I've been doing this for a long time, and it always yields very good results. The changes that come about by doing this are I want to say, what's the right word? Constitutional, institutional, substantial. That doesn't capture it. Genetic. Oh, that's too far. Doing this every day, literally, but it feels like that. It feels like it changes my DNA. But again, that's too far. It makes me. It remakes me. It's like having your hands. No, that's too much. Say hands in clay. That's too much. Eventually, the clay would lose its. If you were always working at the clay, it would become like a soupy mud eventually. I can't quite. It's like a suntan, in a way. It becomes just part of you, right? And, it changes the character. And like a suntan, it doesn't last, right? If I stop this, which I'd never do, I always do this, but if I stopped it, I know that I would. It's like my yoga, too. Yoga is the same way. I do yoga for 20 minutes a day, in addition to my walking. And the yoga really changes my body. I really feel it in a more immediate sense, far more immediate than doing this Good Life meditation. This Good Life meditation is by very, very slow degrees. It wasn't until maybe over 3 years into doing it that I started to really notice the impact. Isn't that amazing? And what astonishing thing that I kept at it for so long. Yeah. I started this in 2018, and it wasn't until near the end of 2021, coming into 2022, that I started to realize that my structure as a human being, again, too much. I'm struggling to find the right words. That I had, this daily effort had made me into somebody else. Now that's something I need to recall. Well, no, not really. It's too late for me. I won't ever be anybody more than the slight person that I already am. That's because I don't want to be. Maybe there's still time, but I think I found the sweet spot in terms of work, family, home, and avocation. It's not a sweet spot, but part of the reason it's a sweet spot is it's not a sedate spot. It's a moving spot. It's like finding your sweet spot in hiking the this is some great trail, the Adirondack Trail or the Pacific Coast Trail. It's like finding your sweet spot in motion. My sweet spot is the forward engagement of another day, the looking towards a better tomorrow, striving for the best today that I can. That's the That's the routine. And I think I'm going to keep that up as long as I can. So I guess it's not a matter of settling and digging into the side of the mountain to make my hobbit hole. It's a matter of making sure that the laces on my boot don't come off. As I did yesterday. I was walking and reading yesterday after work, and both dogs, it was kind of warm, so both dogs kind of wanted to come back. First Olive came back, and then I took Rudy out, and he wanted to come back. So I walked on my own to get my steps in, and 10,000 steps minimum. And I noticed as I was walking, because I was walking faster without the dogs, not a lot faster, it's just the dogs stopped to pee on every light pole, and I only stopped to pee on every other light pole, so I could move faster. Is that vulgar? Anyway, I noticed my lace was coming down, but I didn't want to stop. I could feel and see it flopping around back there. I didn't want to stop. I was enjoying my walking and my reading, but I said, Kurt, you got to stop and tie your damn shoelaces. Eventually I did. Okay. Yesterday was a rough, hard, good day at work. It was a Friday on, because I get every other Friday off. So it's a Friday on. I can't remember the last time that a Friday on was an easy Friday for me. They're all hard. I mean, in some ways they're almost harder, except the good thing is I don't have meetings. I did have one meeting came up, but I normally don't have meetings on my Fridays on. Just nobody's around. And I try to make it that way so that I can focus. So I got my status reports out. They took a lot longer than I thought. I tried to add something called cost plans to one of them, that actually the project that has a budget. And I found out might be a bug in the system. But I was pleased with the way it looked. Yeah. And the rest of the day, by golly, I kept a log. I keep a work log as I go. It's a little Word document open at the bottom lower right corner of my right screen. And I record as I transition from one thing through the day every day. I transition. I take, 9, 10 p.m., switch to beginning the status report for the, XYZ project. And then, 11:30 began the meeting for the, ABC project. Then at the end of the day, I take a little snippet of that, and I send an email to my boss. I say I finished my work day at 4:30 p.m. My work log is below. Detailed list of everything that I did, and I'm honest with that list. So that's because of my brutal honesty. It prevents me from goofing off. The thing that gets tricky sometimes is that I forget to record when I've made the transition. Then I'll go for a stretch. I just did 3 things in 2 hours. Oh, what were they? And then that's if my boss were to read this, he would know that's where I write, open action items or open tasks, right? It's like I forgot to record, so I just put open tasks for a block of time. Anyway, that's what yesterday was like. Yesterday was it wasn't open. I kept a good detail log. I was busy. In fact, I had to work late. My finish time was 4 o'clock. I worked until 4:30ish. So, no big deal. I don't mind at all. I don't mind putting overtime at all. It's not a problem. And then had a good short walk with the dogs, then a long walk with myself. Read my stuff. Oh, I got to do that. I did. I read how did I do in my objectives? No, not that objectives. My criteria. I should put that up here. Well, I did. Did I make my video yesterday? The things that earn me a circle or an X. Did I make my video? Yes. Yes. Did I write my log in the journal? Yes. Did I read 10 pages? Yes, exactly 10 pages. So I get myself another circle. Pardon me. One more circle, and I get a green filler in my desk calendar. That'll be tomorrow. I'm going to do it. Okay, let's do the good life meditation. But first I have to sneeze, I think. Okay, the Good Life Creed. 7 objectives and 30 principles to live a better life. And these are, this first objective is to be always ready to die, to have everything in a good shape, including my relationships. Number 2 is to make good use of my time and effective use of my time so that I'm getting good ends of my days. And I have the sensation of satisfaction in my time being well spent. Number 3 is the development and maintenance of good and sound life principles, where sound means that there's few flaws, not too many cracks. If I knock at the side of a principle, it's found not to be echoing back at me. I think they're all sound, with the exception of the pirate ride, the suggestion that free will is an illusion. That I can't. I know it's vacant of evidence, but I still believe it, so I keep it. Stubborn me. The next is the cultivation of good emotional reactions, just becoming a person who reacts well to life. That's becoming much more apparent. Like in the last 2 months, that one is really, really mature. I might say mature, the right thing. It's almost become like lotion in the skin, how if you do lotion regularly on your skin, again back to the skin, the suntan type of thing, and it just, your skin becomes soft and pliable. That's what the good emotional reaction one has become for me lately, like in the last 2 months. I spot the stuff that would make me upset coming, and if I was a tanker in the military, I button down the hatch. Here it comes, and wait to weather it out while the assault occurs from within. And to my family, they see no change. I'm placid me, not knowing that inside, it's not like, it's funny when that happens. It's not even like resisting. It's not like I'm gonna hold it in. It's like being buttoned in the tank, right? So, ding dong, jing jing jing. Shrapnel outside. Good thing it's 3/4 inch armor. The enemy. There's no enemy. I use that word convenience out of the military reference. Whatever is assaulting me, it's more akin to a hailstorm than an attacking enemy, and no sentience behind it, right? It really, a hailstorm is a good way to describe it. It's like big pellets of ice falling out of the sky, that if I wasn't buttoned in the tank, they'd be banging me on the head and splacking me in the face, and and so my family, as I was upset, would see me twitch and stuff like that. Like yesterday was a Friday on, so my wife and I went to lunch together, and we went to a new place, a steakhouse, and we had a fun time. We had a good talk driving over. We had a nice lunch together. I mean, it was almost like a weekend lunch, and we didn't stay long. We just got the lunch special, the lunch back of the menu, $14 each lunch special. We each got a 6-ounce steak. She got a salad, which was huge, and a sweet potato. I got corn and a baked potato. And while I was getting ready to share in her salad, I picked up my fork and I looked at it, and it had a big piece of someone else's steak that they'd cut stuck between the tongues of the thing, right? Gross. Now, there was a time, I remember, there was a time that I would have had a visible reaction to something like that, been disgusted. I remember one time, before we went back to Japan the second time, before Emily was just a baby, being at a Mimi's in Ventura, the one by the, this is because we lived in Ojai at the time. Has nothing to do with the fact that I used to work in Ventura. It's long decades before that, a decade and a half before that. And we were at the Denny's there by the Tyler Mall. Was it not the Tyler Mall? Whatever that mall is there. I remember I had oatmeal, and I took a big spoonful of oatmeal, and I pulled the thing out, and a long black hair strung out of my mouth like this, right? So some of the cook's hair, long hair, had wound up in it. I immediately retched. I didn't throw up. Emily, Yumiko was there. I think my brother was there because he was living in that area at the time. Emily was there. John Sauchek might have even been there. I bolted out the door, and I stood outside. And I guess I did a good thing that I left. I was so overcome by it. And I stood outside, and I was so upset. And, I upset the whole meal for everybody. Rightfully so, some might argue, right? I mean, it's pretty gross. I mean, it's like more gross than having a piece of food in your fork tongue. But I let the experience soil everybody. It wasn't a good emotional reaction. I mean, maybe it's an appropriate reaction, but it wasn't a good one. It was unnecessary. So yesterday, when that happened, it was quite a different thing. I mean, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but I have, at least I had, a horrible germ phobia when I was young. It's not so much anymore. It doesn't bother me so much, obviously. But anyway, I saw yesterday the forks of the food, and I simply, I didn't miss a beat. Simply moved over, and I put it over here. Actually, I did tell Yumiko. Not out of sharing grossness, but because she and I share our analysis of restaurants, right? Our thoughts about it. I looked at it, and I said, "Oh wow, look at this." I said, "Well, it's a good thing." I said, "Good thing I have another fork," and there was another, so I just put it aside, so it was kind of out of sight. I didn't want to see it, and I just grabbed the other fork. Now it was on my mind, but I didn't let it, show. It was like, okay, immediately I saw that, the little guy, the homunculus inside me, put down, buttoned up the tank hatch, ding, 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 hail, the upset of gross and what kind of place is this? And, why me? Ruining my lunch. Yumiko wouldn't have seen any of that on my face. Because I've trained myself to not be that man anymore. That's the good emotional reactions. Next is the performance. Sorry, I got long-winded on that particular objective. The next objective is the performance of good actions, just to do good things throughout the day. And then the next one is to recognize my true limits and my true opportunities. Excuse me. There was another one like that yesterday. Pardon me. I don't know if I want to talk about that, though. Dealing with the limits. It was somebody else that was dealing with a difficult situation. And we were talking about the limits of what they can do about it. But that was more about somebody else, so I'm not going to talk about that. And then the last one is to do just one thing at a time, and to do that thing slowly, in a considered manner, very deliberately. Those are my 7 objectives. Those are the things that I'm striving for. That's how I want to live my life. And I have 30 principles that help me to be that man, to live that life, to get there. These are, number 1, the principle of war, to always be fighting against what I think is true and what anyone else tells me is true that seems important. Number 2 is the principle of reason and the sub-principles of honesty, objectivity, and doubt, which are the attitude, perspective, and frame of mind that I use in approaching the world, especially in executing that aforementioned war on truth. Number 3 is the homunculus, the suggestion that there is no soul. You and I don't have a soul. That's not just a suggestion, that's just evidently obvious, right? There's no good reason to think so. There's no evidence whatsoever. There's no good evidence that we have a soul. It's a made-up idea for those that are afraid of death or afraid of living, afraid to live courageously now, and would rather hold off, button up the tank hatch maybe, and wait for another life. I choose not to do that. I choose to recognize that I just get this little consciousness that's sitting behind my eyes. I call it a homunculus, and it's with me for the tenure at which my body will be warm and alive. Not even that long. My consciousness could wink out while my body continues. The next one is the next principle is the Anchorhold, kind of the suggestion what I said before about the consciousness being trapped inside my head, not getting out. And you and I are utterly, therefore, separated by some impossible distance between us. That this communication, these words, are just signals across a void. The next is the home of good and evil. Right and wrong, good and evil do not exist out there in the universe. They are opinions developed in the minds of sentient creatures, namely us. They exist with us and nowhere else. And to that end, they are at their foundation subjective. Objective only in terms of when we have a measure that we can use to identify, to quantify, well-being. Then we can have some objective measure, but still the fact that we value that becomes subjective. So at its core, good and evil are subjective. Next is purpose. And the three purposes in my life are to be a good husband and father, to be a virtuous human being, improving the well-being of others, myself, and to pursue my mission, which is the sharing of my story in the good life. I'm sorry, going alone. The good life, the good life is, good life's got some stuff in there, but it's really the wind down from going alone. I'm starting to realize that more and more. It's like, John Steinbeck had a practice when he wrote. He would write in his journal, his writing journal, before he wrote the proper stuff that he was doing. He wouldn't just jump in and start the day, let's write the Grapes of Wrath. He would get out his writing journal and write in his writing journal to ramp up. And then he transitioned to his literature that he was writing. That's kind of what this book, Good Life, is for me in reverse. It's like when I finished going alone, I still had some momentum for about a year or so afterwards. And I wrote more stuff, and that's what that is. That doesn't have the structure or the story of going alone. It really is a kind of a wind down, more like a journal of sorts, or a collection of small essays. And that's my purpose. My purpose is to share going alone, and then the Good Life Creed. Next is atomic principle. Everything is made of bits and pieces, flowing and changing and falling apart. Likewise us. And then the principle of nature. Everything has some particular nature, including you and me. And then the pirate ride. The idea that free will is a convincing illusion, but in fact, we are not free. We can make choices, but the choices that we make, it's like having 1,000 voices whispering in your ear, right, left, right, and then which kind of like the right one, the suggestion to go to the right is a little stronger. Oh, okay, I'll go right. And what's whispering in our heads is not anyone else. It's the inertia of the universe. Because we don't make our decisions in a vacuum. We make our decisions as connected entities as part of all of this, where everything, including the way the light is coming through the blinds this morning, is having some impact on me that contributes to the decisions that I make. I don't think these decisions are determined, but I do believe that they are written in stone after the fact. How that translates into no free will is a tricky one. I can't demonstrate it, but I strongly suspect it's the case. Next comes maturity and the sub-principles of wisdom and fortitude. We are mature when we wisely remember our successes and failures and have the strength to improve. Next comes the social principle. We need each other, human beings that is. And I was thinking yesterday that I might add a sub-principle to this, which would be friendship. The social principle doesn't have any sub-principle. This principle doesn't have any. But I'm starting to realize just how important friendship is. I'm going to work on this. This is back to my third objective, is the development and maintenance of good and sound life principles, is, working on this. So social principle includes friendship. I'm starting to think about the words too. Then comes the principle called public speaking. Do you be very careful in what I say and what I write? To choose my words carefully, to be clear, to the point, timely, succinct, eloquent if I can. Next comes Temperance and the sub-principles of suffering, simplicity, and apathy. Temperance is our controlled consumption of everything, our work and our recreation, our eating, our drinking, all of it. We suffer a little bit when we deny ourselves what we want, and such a life is a simple life. And apathy is what we can employ to recognize what is beyond us, beyond our control, and rein it in, tempering our expectations accordingly. Yeah, apathy belongs here. I've been fussing around with it, thinking about putting it elsewhere. I'm going to keep it here. The next principle is the horror show. Life is an absolutely terrible place. Just chock full of I had a glimpse of the horror show yesterday. I won't give any details, but I just sat there and watched it yesterday, and I was aghast. I was speechless. I am again thinking about it. So this principle reminds me of the fact. It reminds me every day that there are people going through this, and that I haven't really had any episode of my life that would be, I've had tough stuff, but I haven't had horror show level stuff. I didn't really think about it before, that there's kind of a criteria of the horror show level stuff. There isn't really. It's just bad stuff. I haven't had anything that's like, crawl under a rock and switch off the consciousness level stuff. And the thing I was watching yesterday was crawl under the, I'm watching somebody go through it. Somebody that I don't know, somebody that I follow on social media. So there's this huge gap between us. It's a semi-famous person, in the new influencer age. The thing that this person is going through is crawl under a rock, switch off the consciousness level stuff. And he's still young. I don't know how I would handle that at that age. How I would have. Not well. It would have been the end of me. He's only 34. That would have been the end of me. Now, I can only guess if that happened. Man, that's what the horror show is. The horror show is not dwelling on this fact, but remembering that it's there. Remembering that there are people going through this right now. The man I'm referring to is awake right now, most likely, and dealing with it now, and will for a while, until he deals with nothing anymore. Then his family, the horror goes on with his family after that. Anyway, I'm spinning off into details. Not that it's private. He's making this public into the world. He's sharing with it. But still, it's the point is the fact that the horror is there, and that the horror is coming for me, and it's coming for you if it hasn't already arrived. And I need to be ready for it. I need to have everything settled. I need to have my bags packed. This is the stuff that gets through the tank hatch. the tank killer. Now, how will you deal with that, Kurt? How will you deal when you see, right now you're pretty good at dealing with a hailstorm. How are you going to deal with it when you see the thing coming that can get through the tank? And that will be your end. I'm looking at the portrait of Christopher Hitchens on the wall there. He seemed to deal with it well. Carl Sagan's right there. He seemed to deal with it well. Dr. Johnson right here, he ran from it. He fled. He was terrified. Next comes that which must be borne. And what we have to bear is the fact of the horror show. We also have to bear all the responsibilities that we've picked up in life, that we've accepted, picked up. That's a good way to describe it, right? Especially when we're careless with our youth. We pick up responsibilities. It's like, one day you're doing your thing, the next day, what? I've got a kid starting kindergarten. the day after that, there's what's this mortgage thing coming in the mail? And after that, I'm tired. I want to stop working, but I can't. Now, I am sure some of that, all of that, has to do with me. I've experienced all of those emotions. Excuse me. The retirement one almost every week now. Yumiko and I are definitely ready to retire, but we can't yet. We've got to see our daughter through to adulthood. But we've taken on those responsibilities. That's what we have to bear. And we bear it well to the best of our ability. The next comes the Feast of Offal, which is what happens when you blow up into the world. I would say that what happened to me at that Mimi's restaurant when I charged outside decades ago wasn't the Feast of Offal. It was just a involuntary reaction, uncontrolled, undisciplined. I was about 34, 35 back then too. Gee. Anyway, the Feast of Offal is what we do when we lose it. We kind of let everybody know how upset we are. Gosh darn the gosh dang. And it soils other people. It upsets them. It at least shakes up their balance. So I try not to do that. I keep it inside. Like I said, I've disciplined myself to keep it inside too. Actually, it's more than that. It's the stuff that used to trouble me. It isn't only like pelting on the outside layer anymore. It doesn't really get to me anymore, most of it. My responsibilities at work still get to me. I take those really seriously. Those get through that giant catch. Maybe that's because they should. And I don't consume it when other people are doing the same. I'd simply wait it out and offer them a hug or a cup of coffee after they've calmed down. Next is two principles, distraction and agency in the great indifference. Distraction is what we do so we don't have to see the emptiness of the universe, the fact that there seems to be no God or gods out there. We're on our own. And that's the agency in the great indifference. And then distraction is all this other stuff. We can spend our whole lives distracting ourselves until we're dead, and then we got by the whole time and we didn't see the great empty. Next comes the best seat in the house, to not want to be anyone else, be anywhere else, or be doing anything else, but to be okay with who I am, where I am, and what I'm doing. Now, here, who? Then the Path of Wildness. It's a way up and through and into new life, pushing forward. Miko and I are on the path now, getting ready to go back to Japan. It's fun to plan. Then comes the risk of avoiding risk. The surface level risks of life are education, career, family, security, and then the deep risk of finding oneself. It's tough to do both. I recommend to do both. The plan I recommend is to search after yourself in your 20s, and then after that's done, then go on to the other stuff if you want to, from the 30s and beyond. If you don't go after, if you draw into finding yourself in your 20s and you don't do it, watch out. It'll haunt you. It'll most likely haunt you later. And then comes the sin and damnation, and there are 7 sins in my worldview: falsity, credulity, faith, superstition, dogma, authority, and gossip. Believing things too readily, believing things for bad reasons, being untrue, and talking about others behind their back. The consequence to these sins is damnation in the here and now. The next principle is complete oblivion. The suggestion that after we're dead, there's nothing to follow. No, we'll never see our loved ones again. There'll be no reunion. We'll never have a chance to, since we can't see them again, we can never reconcile our differences. There'll be no final reconciliation. And since we won't see anybody again, because we don't exist, there'll be no justice. So we have to do all of those things now. Embrace our people. Make sure that we can try to reconcile any differences, and then pursue a just life. I think I said that right. No vigilantism. Okay. And then the next comes the great life adventure. One or more experiences in life that become our centerpiece of our existence. And then the season of philosophy. Time to record what we've learned along the way. Have the pen and paper ready to go so that we can record whatever ideas come. Typically they'll come later in life, after we've had 1 or 2 great life adventures. That kind of creates that's like plowing the ground for the seeds to grow. And then they start to come later. That's why I keep the journal on the desk over there, ready to go when the ideas come. Then comes the bullseye aim. Striving to hit the bullseye mark, but usually missing, and being okay with that. I use this one all the time at work. I always hit the bullseye aim. Yesterday I sent a status report out. I spent 2 hours working on that thing because I had to get the project, all the project pieces. I use software to manage my project. All the project pieces in the software had to be just so that when I instantiate the status report out of the software, everything is good. I don't want to have any statuses that show the wrong state or that read well or whatever the case is. I did all of that. I had it in such good shape. I mean, it was great. And I sent them email. And as soon as I sent the email, I realized I had a problem in the subject line, because I had created the email to send the status report by taking an old email from 2 weeks ago, because I do my status reports every 2 weeks, and I did a reply to all to get all the senders, and so it had the RE colon at the front. It's like, gosh darn it. And immediately, as soon as I spotted that, my mind went, bam, bullseye aim, Kurt. And I went, yep, there you go, there. I missed the mark by a little bit, but pretty close nonetheless. Move on to the next thing. No problem. That is routine now with me. Like I said, by doing this every day, these principles are they're like hanging there in the air, invisible. I don't even see them. And then I was like, I spotted the re, and I started to get, and then bullseye aim. Oh, bullseye aim. Oh yeah, never mind. There you go. Well, who was I to expect 100%? What kind of unreasonable bastard does that? Oh, sorry. Okay, next is the uphill climb. Steady climbing up in life. And then not stopping along the way. We'll keep on moving. Keep that momentum going. To stop is to die. And then arena and utility. Life is an arena. By doing this daily exercise, I keep my principles right there. It's not even like they're hanging at a belt anymore. It's like they're just invisible in the air all around me now. Especially things like temperance. Temperance is almost like right in front of my face. It's almost like a shield now. Like it's an invisible shield. I just temper my emotions all throughout the day. I feel myself doing this. My emotions, there's a little something that happens that kind of, that 2 decades ago would have been the, being a little poke inside of me, a little, like the little food in the fork would have been a little poke. And I wouldn't have been able to resist it. My face would, and Yumiko would be sitting across the way, seeing me throughout the meal as I'm spotting things that kind of mildly upset me. And it kind of begins to show, and she can see visibly that I'm not enjoying the meal because bullseye aim. But now, because of bullseye aim, because I think about it, because I keep apathy and temperance at my right and left hand, I go through the meal with a kind of an apparent equanimity. And you know what else? And would it be fun to do? And wasn't that a great meal? Okay, let's get back to work. Let's go home. And so even though it's still happening, nothing's changed. The reality of the world's still happening. How I engage with it and respond is utterly different. And I, therefore, become utterly different. And because, like I said before, it doesn't reach me deep anymore, there's a peace inside me that is utterly different. I guess it's the peace of later years, right? I like the sound of that. But that piece is haunted by the horror show, right? Okay, almost done. 2 more principles. Second to last is what is it? I can't remember. Oh, that which must, no, nothing is, no. Yeah, nothing is enough. The idea that less is better. It's very similar to temperance, but a little bit different. It's just a prescription to keep my stores at a minimum, right? Nothing is maybe a little too nothing, too less, but you get the idea. To have less, do less. Be less, maybe. The last principle is the principle of fun. A reminder to have a good time. There are 2 sub-principles. Hope, looking forward, and retrospect, looking back. But I need to have fun too in here now. And I'm getting better at this. Since I added this principle, I am starting to have more fun. And it's funny because I don't do anything else. Right? I really am not that adventure person anymore. I really don't get out and I don't go to the desert anymore. I don't even ride my damn motorcycle anymore. But I'm having more fun than ever. Mostly just fun in the immediate moment, doing my life, taking on the challenges of work, enjoying my weekend with my family, and particularly my wife, Emily. She's off doing her life now for the most part. This weekend she'll be down in Irvine all weekend. But maybe when I can go see a movie, we'll do our chores, we'll have lunch, be with our dogs. It's a good life. But the horror is coming. The horror is here. It doesn't mean, though, that we can't have a good life in spite of the horror. I can attend to the horror. I can note the horror. I can balance my reaction, maintain a mature and sober frame of mind, and still make the best life that I possibly can. Now, to plan for the coming day. It's a Saturday, so today means house cleaning, shopping. So as soon as I'm done with this, I'll begin the video uploading. I'll walk over to my Bible station, and I will read today Isaiah 28 is what I'll read, study, and then I will go over and sit at my desk and I will write my journal entry for the day. And then I'll go downstairs after that and I'll feed my dogs and begin house cleaning the first floor of the house, which I do while my wife and daughter are still asleep. And then later Yumiko will get up, we'll have breakfast, and then I'll finish my cleaning of the second floor. And then, the thing I have to do is I have to get Emily's car. Oh, she's going to go to Irvine. So I can't do it. So I'll have to do that next Friday. Well, that's good. More free time for me. Then Nimiko and I can go off and do our shopping. Maybe today we'll do some antique stores. That's fun. I love doing that. We love doing that together. Anyway, have a good day. Be safe, but not too safe.